all so much for tuning into the PHNX Coyotes Podcast, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah Merrill here with Steve Peters and Craig Morgan as always. We are very excited to welcome another very special guest to the studio this week. It's Arizona Coyotes President and CEO Xavier Gutierrez. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, guys. What a great setting. This is impressive.
Thank you. It's your first time in person,
First time
so
here.
we're
It's
thrilled to have you.
Official business.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to say, I wondered if you would come in the suit today. I think I've seen you out of a suit just once in the entire time I've known you.
We will get into it, but my wife, Jerica, does not let me leave the house.
Are you
without a suit and tie?
Are
What
your
do you guys-
pajamas suits as well? Do you have like pajama
Yeah.
suits?
She actually bought me a ugly Christmas sweater suit outfit.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wait,
absolutely.
and we might need to
We might have
flash
to
your
see that.
shoes for the
Yes.
viewers
Oh,
because
yeah, we'll get
and
to
we'll
those
get into
later,
this
but
later,
We will
but
get into a style game
we
later.
all were feeling the pressure to bring our A+ shoe game
And
today.
with the absence of Troy Stetcher, who we voted the best dressed Coyote, your name was actually brought up yesterday as someone that might be competing
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's is that an
with
honor?
your style game.
I think it is. It is.
Yeah, we'll save that for later in the show. But Javier, obviously, we have you here to talk about the state of the campaign, the state of the franchise. And thank you so much for taking some time out of your day because I know you've been working hard. I've seen you on pretty much every outlet, heard you on every radio outlet, I've seen you at events. As I told you last night, I could hear it in your voice. I felt like we should offer you some herbal tea just to soothe your voice when you came in today. But instead, we're going to ask you to talk a lot more, which you'll find out Petey does a lot as well. So let's start with an overarching question. In your mind, what is the state of the Tempe Wins campaign today, March 8th, a little more than 2 months before that critical May 16th referendum decision?
The state of the campaign is very strong. And I start by telling folks that we, from day one, knew this was going to be a long campaign. We were going to have a very measured approach, but we were going to have a very committed approach. I want people to understand Alex Morello has committed the resources, both financial and human resources, well over a 7-figure commitment to the campaign. We've hired 3 campaign management companies, and all of whom have won in Tempe, all of whom have won in this community, who have done referendums of all shapes and sizes. So incredibly experienced, incredibly resourced, and with a very strategic approach. And that strategic approach is really based on we got to get voters out.
Yeah.
We have to inform the folks and get all the misinformation that may be out there out of the way. And we have to really just let people know what it is that we're offering and how compelling it is and what a transformative project. And really the 3 key things: the right project, the right deal, and the right team to execute on it. And so we feel very good. Now, having said that, from day one, we said we were going to operate as if we're losing this race because we wanted to work hard. We wanted to work every day and consistent, and we wanted to earn people's votes, and we wanted to be radically transparent. You know, part of my effort to be out and accessible is because that is who we are. We want to be inclusive and we want to be transparent. We want to communicate everything that we stand for and what this campaign and what this project and what this deal and what this team really stand for. And so we feel very good about it, but we know there's still a long way to go. And that was the strategy, was that this was going to be a big campaign that was going to take not just one day, 1 week, but it was going to take multiple months.
As I've mentioned to you, there's been some consternation on the part of Tempe City officials that your early efforts maybe weren't what they expected. The concern was that you fell behind the opposition, which has been active since at least December, and you've lost ground in messaging in your efforts to win this campaign. Sorry for my long-winded questions. They'll probably be more concise than me. There are psychological theories like the sleeper effect or the continuing influence effect based on academic research that show that once you put an idea in someone's heads, even if it's false or misleading, it's hard to remove it. Can you address those concerns and go deeper into your strategy?
Sure. I'm not sure I agree with any of that.
Okay.
I disagree that we've fallen behind. I disagree that we haven't done what we needed to do. We knew that our biggest issue was to inform people and then to get them out to vote. You know what my biggest concern is? That so many people say, this is too good of a deal. I'll let somebody else vote. That's our biggest concern. We need to get people out. We need to get them informed. So I'm not sure I necessarily agreed with that consternation. And we certainly don't see it today. One thing that we did have to do, we had to follow every letter of the law. You can't have signs out in public until 75 days before the election. That was March 2nd. What happened on March 2nd? We bombarded the city of Tempe with signs, okay? We have had our video, our digital, our social media campaigns actually starting since the beginning of the year. December, I think most people went dark for holidays.
Yeah.
So starting after the first of the year, I think our grassroots campaign in terms of being out in community, I think our first event was the second week of January in terms of a community coffee event. And we also understand Tempe's different. This is a very hyper-local race. We have, I believe, 90,000 registered voters. We think that a great turnout will be 35 to 40,000 voters. It is a special election, it is a mail-in, and it has 3 propositions. All those things need to be worked through in terms of informing people. So I don't know where that narrative came from. And truth be told, our internal polling, which I will not reveal because I know you'll ask me, shows very strong support for what we're talking about. But it does show that we still, but it does show that we still need to have a lot of work done to inform people, because it's really simple to say we don't want taxpayers to pay for it. You know what? We agree. We don't want the taxpayers to pay for it. We're going to pay for it. That is uncommon because it's never happened in the history of any facility in Arizona. So not only do we have to talk about our project, we have to inform people about something that's never been done before. There's never been a developer to take its project to the voters in a referendum proactively. There's never been a development agreement that included a commitment to union labor. There's never been a developer that's willing to pay for a sports and entertainment facility. All of those things in the history of Arizona, and we're excited to do all that.
You brought up something about taxes, and this is one of the things that strikes home for me, and I'm going to veer off a little bit here because this is what, to me, is really important. Unfortunately, I'm not a Tempe voter, so I can't vote. I think I'm fairly informed. What I get frustrated with the taxes, and I've heard this, I've seen it on the internet, I've seen it, giving businessmen tax breaks, giving businessmen tax breaks. First of all, can you clarify, and I know we've done this every single time we've talked about this, if you don't utilize the facilities of the entertainment district, you are not paying taxes for this facility. And I also want to dismiss the notion that other businesses don't get tax benefits for moving into a community, because it's not sports teams. It's every business that moves into a community that funds large employment bases gets tax benefits for bringing their business to that community. Not hockey teams, businesses. Can you address those two things and just, in your words, say you're not paying for it?
Sure. Well, let me start by saying that you're not paying for it. This is the first privately funded sports and entertainment district in the history of Arizona. And typically what happens is there are bonds issued that are backed by the taxpayers, that are guaranteed by the taxpayers, that are repaid by the taxpayers, and they build the buildings and build the arenas and the stadiums. And then those buildings and the arenas don't ever pay taxes ever, right? That is literally the case for every other sports facility in Arizona. Sun Devil Stadium, Chase, Desert Diamond, State Farm Stadium. Taxpayers paid to build it, and there are no taxes that they pay in perpetuity, which means forever, okay? What we are proposing is that we are going to buy this land as if it was cleaned up. And remember, it's a toxic landfill. We're going to pay a $40 million non-refundable deposit when it becomes effective shortly, hopefully after this vote on May 16th. And we will begin remediation. Now, yes, there is going to be a community facilities district. It is going to issue bonds. Let's talk about those. They're for infrastructure. They're for remediation. There's a cloud on title. By the way, this is city-owned land. This is its responsibility. Right now, that toxic landfill represents a $210 million environmental liability to the city of Tempe. It caught on fire. The firefighters of Tempe went in and had to deal with a toxic fire. So we are cleaning it up. And yes, what are those bonds? How are they going to be repaid? There are taxes that are going to be created on site. We're asking the city to deploy some of those taxes that are created on site by all of our private real estate to be deployed for that. The rest is going to be paid by us. How? There's a voluntary surcharge, as you just mentioned. When you go buy a ticket, when you go rent a hotel room, when you buy a slice of pizza or a t-shirt, we're going to add a 1% to 2% surcharge. And if you don't want to pay that, you don't have to come on and buy a ticket or buy a pizza or come to a game or stay at the hotels. And then on top of all that, though, we're going to guarantee those bonds with the land that we bought and the real estate that we built with our money. That is it. That is the entire deal. Now, we've asked for a limited duration tax abatement for the arena, for the theater, and for our practice facility of 30 years, and 8 years for the other uses, the hotels. So there are 37 Jeeplets along Tempe Town Lake. State Farm Office Park next to us, to your point, has a 99-year Jeeplet, okay? This is a very common economic development tool. The reality is this toxic landfill has been sitting there for, I believe, 70 years. Everyone has seen it. They know where it's at, and nothing has happened. Zero revenue, zero jobs, and in fact, it's a liability. And so we have created the site's highest and best use as articulated by the City of Tempe's own third-party expert. And why is it the site's highest best use? Because, and I know there's a lot of fans listening here, this is not really an arena project.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It is a urban redevelopment project that's anchored by an arena. It is 2 hotels. It is the Rodeo Drive in terms of shops and restaurants of Arizona. It is going to be a 4,000 flexible seating theater, 2,000 units of housing, 2 medical office buildings, and an arena and a practice facility and the home of the Arizona Coyotes. And you've seen it. I encourage everyone, please go to TempeWins.com. It is all there. You know, one thing that's, you know this, Craig, because you've been to a handful of our community meetings. Everything we say is public. The documents are public. That development agreement we signed and got a 7-0 approval from the city council of the City of Tempe, it is public. Everything that I say can be fact checked. And unfortunately, we have people who don't want to talk about facts. So to your point, that's a long-winded way of saying we're paying for it. We are responsible for it. Property taxes are not going to go up. Individual taxes are not going to go up. And in fact, this is the first time that a developer is saying, we'll pay for it. Don't get me wrong. My initial foray to the City of Tempe was, you own this piece of land.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys clean it up?
Yep.
And then why don't you guys sell it to me? And they said, we don't have the money and we don't want a bond just for that. I said, great. Let's create a structure in which what we build creates enough economic activity that some of the taxes created on site will go to that. The rest, we will impose a surcharge, and then we'll guarantee it. And we'll put a lien on all of our property so that if there's any shortfall ever, you'll just put more assessments on our property that we own, that is ours. Just like you own your house, you have a lien on it, they'll create another assessment, you end up paying for it. That's the way it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But it does, and I think that's where this messaging gets lost. And I'm just, and I appreciate that you mentioned the other businesses, and I don't think people understand that this is common practice in commercial real estate.
Common practice right along Tempe Town Lake.
Yes. And the other point you made is, right now, how much tax revenue is this dump generating for the City of Tempe right now?
0. No jobs. No revenue.
For
and
how
if
long,
anything, decades.
Right. So
Decades.
it's not like there's a lineup of people that are developing this for better uses and generating more money. It's not there. Okay.
But what we are creating is the right project that creates enough economic activity to bear the cost of the cleanup.
Exactly.
Nothing else could do this. You can't just have office, or you can't just have residential, or you just can't have retail. It is this high traffic, and we'll talk about this. This will become the second most visited site in the state of Arizona. Tempe Town Lake currently is already, and there's not the amenities that we're going to bring to it. So imagine, right now, 2.5 million people visit Tempe Town Lake. We are conservatively saying 3 million And realistically, it's going to be between 5 and 6 million. And it's because of the different uses. This is a work, live, play, urban redevelopment. It's best in class. This is going to be something that the entire valley and the entire state is going to be very proud of. And we are willing to put our money into it to make that happen.
I want to get a little bit back into the campaign efforts. And you touched on earlier some of the efforts like the social media campaign and the video and all of that. What other efforts are there? Is there door-to-door campaigning? Is there direct mail campaigning?
Absolutely. This is a hyper-local campaign. But you know what? You got to build, and you got to continue to build that, because the reality is, you know what we want? We want people to register to vote on April 17th. That's the last day you can vote. We want them to start mailing in their ballots May 9th. We want to for sure have them mail it in or drop off their ballots by May 16th. This is a special election. It is a mail-in only election, special election. So we know this is going to be door to door. This is going to be community meeting to community meeting. And reality is, we're going to have others in that community say what all of this really is, not just us. And so that's what we're doing. I think we have slated between now and May 9th, I believe it's something like 65 community meetings. We have canvassers.
Yeah,
both
Nick supplied a big
volunteer,
list to me today. So
absolutely. Canvassers, both in person, both volunteer canvassers, part of our campaign canvassers. And canvassers are literally knock on the doors, answer questions, direct people to TempeWins.com. This is not like an election for an individual. It's not just vote for me. It's what is 301? What is 302? What is 303? Why are there 3 propositions?
Yeah.
What about parking? What about traffic? What about you have to get people to feel like you can answer their questions. And that's what we knew we had to do in a comprehensive manner.
And sorry, I just have a quick follow-up on that, because there was a question in our chat. Have the community meetings, and this is from Michael, so thank you, Michael, have the community meetings you conducted changed people's minds who were against it before attending? Have you seen that yet?
I think what we've seen more than anything, and I defer to you, is people show up, and I give them a lot of credit, saying, I don't know where I stand because I don't know enough. And then they hear it, and they said, we really aren't going to pay for this, are we? I'm in. And that's what you see over and over. We actually had 2 former council members of Tempe show up at our very first event in South Tempe and said, I'm completely open-minded. And they walked out. They joined our campaign. They joined our committee. They said, this is absolutely what this city of Tempe needs. It is the right structure. It does not create any financial risk. It does not create any burden on taxpayers. So that's what we see more and more. I think there's going to be, and we accept this, and I think, Craig, you've seen this. I'm always very transparent and honest. There's going to be people who they're just going to not like it, and they're not going to agree with it for whatever reason, and that's okay, as long as they're willing to, really communicate respectfully with the truth, not with misinformation or misunderstanding, and really not make this a very personal matter, which unfortunately we're seeing. This is not about merits of the conversation. What we're seeing is personal attacks on Alex, on his track record, which just they're inappropriate, right? You're talking about an individual who's been in business for 40 plus years through up and down economic cycles in highly regulated business. Alex and I, we own a bank together. We get regulated by banking authorities. They come in and review twice a year all of the things that we operate under. Alex Morello has gaming licenses in 2 states, Nevada and Arizona, highly regulated. We own radio and television, FCC licenses, highly regulated. Every day they oversee what you put on the airwaves. We are in the food services industry, the FDA, highly regulated. The only industry we're not in is in the medical industry. And I don't think we want to get into the medical industry. You're talking about someone who is in a highly regulated environment, successful track record for 40 years, never had a company in bankruptcy. And so for there to be any narrative about him not being a good business person, listen, I'll be the first one to say, we came in here and we had to undo financial situations that had consistently undermined the financial viability of this organization. And we were upfront about that. And we have owned every mistake that we've made, and we have rectified it. And we've shown our commitment to the Valley. And I tip my hat to Alex. He put in $30 million to keep us here while we're trying to convince people to let us put in over $2 billion to keep us permanently here.
I want to come back to misinformation in a moment. I wanted to ask one more question about reaching the voters. You mentioned you expect to turn out about 35,000 voters. How do you identify the most likely voters? How do you reach them? What is the, I don't know if you want to tell us how the sausage is made there, but how do you drill down and find those people that are likely to turn out?
I don't know if it's appropriate for us to get into our game planning. That's the equivalent of Bill showing up here and telling you, what we're going to do to develop our first round traffic. I know you try, right? But suffice it to say, we have people who have done this. And they've done it in this community. They've done it in the Valley. They've been successful, and they understand how to get this done. We have told them we will put the resources to this. We will put the commitment to this, and we'll put in the effort to do this. The reason I've lost my voice, and you know this, is I am out there, but it's not just me. This isn't a me. This is an us. And I think that we have shown we are going to be completely accessible and transparent and communicative, and we're going to tell the truth.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about this, what this arena would mean for the Coyotes. I think we all know it's everything. It's so critical to the future of this franchise. Let's talk to Tempe voters who may not care about NHL hockey at all. Let's talk to everyday Tempe voters who are impacted by this development. What do you want them to know about this project's community benefits?
So again, I know I am on Phoenix Sports, and you guys do an incredible job, and I can't thank you enough for supporting our fan base, but I'm going to tell you something. We don't typically talk to our fan base, right? Because we know that they understand the importance of this. And what we really highlight is this is not an arena project. It is a best-in-class urban redevelopment project. It's an opportunity to take a landfill that sat for decades and create it into a landmark in which you're going to have almost 7,000 permanent jobs, in which you're going to create over $13 billion on a conservative basis of net new economic output. This is going to create that main and main of the state. And so what do we say to those folks? We say, this is not a sports matter. This is, what do we want for our community? And you know what we want? We want economic activity. We want jobs. We want revenue for the city of Tempe to be able to provide the social services that it needs. There is a housing crisis. We want to be a part of it. You know how we're partly going to be a part of it? The city will generate over $7 million free and clear after all of the adjustments for any potential tax abatement that we've requested, which we can get into, to be able to provide those city services. We're gonna send over a $40 million non-refundable deposit that could be the anchor for additional services or for potential bonding issuances that could then provide itself, whether it's universal pre-K, whether it's addressing the homelessness as an affordability crisis. You've heard this before. We want to be part of the solution. Alex said it himself, but we can't be the only part of the solution.
Yeah.
And we are creating the economic activity, the economic resources, the financial resources for the city of Tempe to address those issues. And we think that's the appropriate thing. The other thing that we haven't talked about is in one of the most unprecedented aspects of this deal that, again, is public, we've made a landmark commitment to utilizing union labor for this project, which we think is the right thing to do, especially when we're looking at such a highly skilled need of the arena and of the practice facility. And also there is a lot of development going on in this state with all the semiconductor chip plants and that whole entire ecosystem. That commitment really allows the union labor community to be a part of this and to be an integral part of this. And so, again, all that is public. So what do we say to this? You don't have to think about this as a sports issue, as a hockey issue, as a Coyotes issue. It will be our home. It will be a state-of-the-art sports and entertainment complex, sports practice facility, performance technology facility. But more importantly, it's going to be an urban redevelopment project. You're going to take a toxic landfill and you're going to create jobs. You're going to create revenue. You're going to clean up our environment, and you're going to do so without having the taxpayers pay for it.
lots more to get into.
Yeah.
We've already covered a lot of ground, lots more to get into still. But before we do, one of the reasons we're talking a lot about Tempe and
Yes.
Four Peaks A Street Pub is located in Tempe, and we frequent
Great
it.
pregame spot.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Coyotes fans there before games. And if you're looking for a place to spend St. Patrick's Day, Four Peaks A Street Pub. Hello.
Can't believe you brought that up.
You can't bring that up with Craig.
Yeah, no, unless
Can
you're
we go
part
in
of the
instead of
PHNX
Craig's?
staff and you're going to Craig's house. Did you know he's having a party?
I've heard that he's
But
having a
everybody
party.
else hang out at the Four Peaks A Street Pub for St. Patrick's Day and enjoy a damn good time. Must be 21 or older to drink and enjoy responsibly. And Petey, I gotta be honest with you, I'm still thinking about those chips from last night from the Circle K snack cart.
I tell you, the kettle chips, salty, just the right amount of salty.
Oh my
Loved them.
gosh! Like I might have to
Fantastic.
swing by a Circle K on my drive home today. We're so excited to be partnered with our friends at Circle K, and this is really exciting. And everybody watching right now should take out their phone as I say this,
Get the right
because
number.
to kick things off, we've teamed up for an amazing giveaway opportunity with Circle K. All you have to do is text PHNX to 31310 for an opportunity to win a $500 gas card. That's PHNX to 31310 for an opportunity to win a $500 gas card. See those show notes for details. All right, let's dive right back
Now
in.
you made me hungry.
I know.
I know.
Jeez.
we can all go to Circle K together.
By the way, I love the comments. I know I'm going to throw your show off, but
No.
if you don't mind, I'd
Yeah,
love to
of
address
course.
it.
Go ahead,
please.
First of all,
Please do.
you know, TempeWins.com. People ask us where can we help? Where can we sign up? We have a button to say, hey, I want to put up lawn signs. I want to canvas. I want to volunteer. TempeWins.com. It is all there. All that is happening. We actually have canvassers out on the street in Tempe tomorrow morning. And this is an ongoing effort. If you live in Tempe, please register and please vote. If you have friends who live in Tempe, tell them to register, tell them to vote. If you have coworkers, if you have employers, anybody, but direct everybody. It's all there. It's all fully available. Our presentation, our FAQs, even our Mythbusters to address some of the things that we're hearing out in the narrative. They're all there. TempeWins.com.
And that's one of the things that I want people that are listening, and I know we're going to get this out on social, so this message gets broader than just our base. I'm not sitting here going, I'm on your side, and I want you here because I want people to get the facts.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to understand what the facts are. And I'll be honest, if somebody truly digs deep, reads this and understands it and says, you know what, just for me personally, here are my reasons why it doesn't fit. I'm going to vote no, but I understand it. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. It's the people that are saying, well, this, and this. And one of the things I wanted, if I lived in this neighborhood, things I'm going to be concerned about. I'm going to be concerned about traffic, and I'm going to be concerned about noise. How does this affect me if I live in this area? Have we looked at traffic and traffic patterns and how we're going to affect the immediate area around the building?
Sure. So again, one of our approaches from day one is we're going to tell you the straight story. We're going to be fully transparent. Anybody who tells you traffic's not a problem, don't worry, that's incorrect. Of course it is. The question is, how are you going to manage it? How are you going to mitigate it? So let's a couple of things. First, we're in Tempe. Someone reminded me recently, the Super Bowl was hosted in Tempe. You're talking about a city that knows how to host incredibly large gatherings. Innings Fest, I believe, was 45,000 people last weekend on Tempe Beach Park, right? So you're talking about a city that understands that. And it does so with Sun Devil Stadium. It does so with us right now at Mullet. And Mullet with a game at ASU basketball. We're in a city that understands that. That's number one. Number two, the site is 5 miles of 5 freeways. You are talking about the best located site for a high traffic area, honestly, probably in the valley, okay? Third, we have made significant investments and commitments, and it's all public, again, to encouraging transportation, to increasing the Orbitz shuttles to transportation, to increasing traffic mitigation. One of our negotiations with the Sky Harbor Airport was they wanted millions of dollars from us to create traffic, basically people out there or synchronizing lights or what have you, so that traffic didn't get stuck between downtown Phoenix through the airport into Tempe. All those things combined, not just one of those things, all those things combined give us the ability to be able to say to people, we believe we have a plan to mitigate and to manage traffic. As far as noise, I mean, now we're getting into the guts of our conversations with Sky Harbor, but the reality is this. There are almost 6,000 units, I believe, of housing along Tempe Town Lake. You live there. You don't want to live in a place in which you don't have the state-of-the-art, noise mitigation. We are going to have that standard and more, because the reality is this: we own it. It's ours. We want it to be successful. We want people to come and eat and shop and play and live there. And so we are making that investment into the noise mitigation. But it is, you're in an urban core area. That's part of what you're going into when you want to go there and shop, when you want to go in there and live, when you want to go in there and be part of a sports and entertainment experience. And so we've always been upfront about, this is how we are going to manage things. This is how we're going to mitigate those issues. We're never going to eliminate them. And anybody who would tell you that they would is lying to you.
I'm glad you brought up the location of the arena, because I've heard people say, well, this is not accessible. I have literally been to every NHL arena, and I know how inaccessible a lot of them are. There are clearly our freeways. The other element here is, maybe with the exception of Vegas, or maybe it rivals it, there's no arena that's closer to the airport. So it's incredibly convenient for teams coming in, for fans coming in. It's 5 minutes. You can literally walk from the airport to the arena if you wanted. But that's not what I'm going to ask you about. This is going to be another one of my long-winded questions.
Sure.
And this is something that
the
PD
long-winded one. I got it.
Yes. PD and I ranted about this. I want to address this notion that arenas are not economic engines that drive prosperity in a community, a notion about which my former college classmate Neil DeMouse has written extensively for the website Field of Schemes. I'll let you address that basic assertion in a moment, but the argument has always bothered me because it doesn't take into account elements such as civic pride, the value of art and entertainment, the sheer joy and energy that comes with sports. I don't know how you quantify the smile on a kid's face, but I know there's value to it. I don't, when he gets an autograph from his favorite player, what's that worth? I don't know what the number value is, but there is value there. What are your thoughts on the overall impact of arenas on sports teams and on that more esoteric question?
Sure. Well, let me separate the sports and then in this instance, the not sports component. And within sports, let's talk about the tangible and intangible. I guess that's what you're talking about, right? Tangible, I completely disagree that there is no economic impact, because the reality is that you are an economic engine because we have employees. We have a supply chain that we support in terms of all the vendors that we buy from and that we keep employed as a result. So and you saw it, by the way, during COVID. When arenas shut down, the economic impact of sports was incredibly apparent. All the jobs and all the ancillary economic connections to sports. You actually saw that. And I'm curious as to why academics haven't utilized the shutdown of sports to actually prove the opposite of, okay, if we keep saying that it doesn't have an economic impact, when it shut down, what did we see? What economic loss did we see? And what was the ripple effect to all of these other economic entities that associate themselves and have relationships with sports teams? So that's the tangible, okay? The intangible, I am here having changed careers from finance, investment, banking, sort of background, because of the incredible power of sports to make an impact in people's lives. And the reality is that sports teams, we convene, we inspire, we bring hope, we bring joy, and that is immeasurable when you think about civic pride, when you think about brand recognition. The reality is this: you guys saw me. I went up there in another fancy blue suit, right? In Montreal for the draft. Yeah. And in front of 20,000 Canadians and millions, right, of Canadians watching on television, I told Gary Bettman when I knew I was going to get booed. The moment I said ASU and Tempe, Arizona, okay? They were now top of mind of millions of people, millions of employees, millions of employers, millions of business owners. And I got to tell you, and I don't know how much we want to talk about in terms of mullet, right? We have had so many business leaders for the first time come to a Coyotes game, come to Tempe without having been there, from across the country, to say, this community is incredible. Who knew there was a lake in Arizona? Right. I said, well, there's actually a lot of lakes in Arizona. But just the opening up of the potential for business opportunity, the opening up for understanding what this community stands for, and then the intangible that you said. You know, I was an 8-year-old kid in Dodger Stadium watching this lefty from my home country.
That's a good story.
Right?
Yeah.
Inspire me to believe that I could achieve anything in this country, to believe in the American dream. And I know there's little kids that come to our games or come to sporting events.
You got to name
It's Fernando Valenzuela.
Yes, of course.
Right? A kid who couldn't speak English, and it was the Cy Young and MVP.
Yeah.
Right? And Rookie of the Year. And he inspired me. And that is the feeling that sports can give you of hope, of inspiration, and of convening. You mentioned Vegas. There was a terrible tragedy when the Vegas Knights showed up in Vegas.
Yeah.
And the Vegas Knights were the convening force to help that community heal. And you see that over and over and over again. I was just watching a Netflix special about the first Black captain of the South African rugby team and what that has meant to that community that is still healing from many years and decades of apartheid. Sports does that. Those are the intangibles. You can't measure that, but I've given you some tangibles that we see and we believe in. And again, and yet this is more than just a sports arena.
Right.
We know that this is going to be a center of convening. I've said often that, you know, part of the reason why I was so interested in this project is I was trying to figure out where the tree lighting was for me to go to in Arizona, right? And we want to have it, just like you would have in Rockefeller Center or in Union Square in San Francisco or in downtown Los Angeles. I mean, this creates that convener and that civic pride.
I will say this too, because we talked a lot about mullet early, and you talked about the league and the perception around the league, and there was laughs and there was negativity and there was complaining. First of all, you don't hear that anymore, especially people that have been there. I talked to somebody in Minnesota today who's flying out from Minnesota, bought a suite at the Mullet, and is going to spend 3 days in Tempe enjoying our great Arizona weather. So people are coming here, first of all. And by the way, Mullet Magic is real because the team is really,
I want to talk
really
about that
good.
because I know you want to address
People
that.
aren't complaining about the facility anymore. But again, we talked about some of our sponsors that are close to this arena. You see Coyotes jerseys on the streets now. You see Coyotes logos inside shop windows. And this is something that this community has lacked for a very long time. And I've been to games in Glendale, and this is absolutely no fault of Glendale or what they tried to build at Westgate. That is not this. That is not Tempe. It's not the proximity to everything else. And I just want to say, I don't know if there's a question in here other than what you said about sports bringing people together. It absolutely does. But this isn't just sports. This is an opportunity for everybody to see. Please go to the website that we've talked about. It'll be in our description. Find out everything you possibly can in the next 2 months about this project. Please. Yeah. Sorry, Craig.
All right.
There's
No,
a
that's
question.
fine. I'll get to. I'm getting back to misinformation before we move on and talk about the state of the franchise, mullet, et cetera. And I'm not going to ask you to comment on these things that I've seen recently. Why you left Glendale? That narrative persists out there.
It's out there and it's factual, by the way.
Yeah.
So go look at it.
I literally
Craig
have a
wrote
quote from the
about it.
city manager
Yeah,
telling
Craig
me
wrote
why,
about it in his
why things
story
broke
today.
down.
Yeah,
and
read
yet
Craig's
still it
story today.
persists. About the 30-year relocation agreement. Can't trust Bettman because the Coyotes broke it back. No, they didn't. About Mayor Corey Wood's feelings about this deal because they took a quote out of context and used it in the opposition literature. Characterizations of Alex Morello, as you said recently on recent opposition literature and on their website. What I'm going to ask you is, how do you react to such misinformation or characterizations, and how do you combat it?
I mean, I think the way we have approached this is it is our job to inform. It is our job to go door to door, to be in every community, every part rather of the Tempe community, and to say, you can make up your mind, but before you do, here are the facts. Here is the truth. And if you have any questions, we'll meet you anywhere, anytime, any place to answer them. And so that's all you can do. There will be some, I think, actions that we take because we do think that in particular the personal attacks, which are not only inappropriate and uncivil, but they're just incorrect and I think border on the line of really undermining other aspects of Alex Morello's business endeavors. We will have potentially some very strong actions against that. But in terms of just informing, I think when you tell people these are the facts, By the way, someone asked me the other day, why aren't you just asking people who, question this, well, what do you want to do with the toxic landfill? I said, well, that's actually a very good question. I don't focus on that, but you have heard people say, what's your idea here? Because it doesn't generate jobs. It doesn't generate revenue. We have all of these needs for the city. And oh, by the way, it's a toxic landfill that caught on fire and could catch on fire again.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Because we're going to have proof here. As you've seen by our comments, we have a lot of people that this is a passionate subject. And I think it's very important they get accurate information. I'm going to put you on the spot and say, if questions come up over the next 6 weeks, and I know you've got a conduit through Craig, may we reach out, ask you this question so we can say, Javier said this. Here's the question, and here's how we responded. So we can get the right information.
I'll put you guys on the spot. I will come back here and just do question and answers if you guys want to do it.
Great.
I mean, literally, that's what I do every day.
Like everybody's getting excited now.
But that's what we want.
You know what I'm excited to? Because the idea of not working but having it count as work for me is really enticing.
That's a whole other conversation. No, the reality is we have made a commitment to be fully transparent and available and accessible. Yes, for scale purposes, TempeWins.com is much better. It's much easier because I can scale, and we as a team can scale our reach. But this is we have never shied away from saying this is what we believe in. We believe in it so strongly. We're going to make this incredible financial commitment. But in the process, we're fully available. We're fully transparent. We're fully communicative. Remember, we took it to the voters. We said the voters should have a say. No one sued us. No one asked us. No one, made us do it. We went to the council and said, we think it's too big of a project. It's too, much of an impact for this community. The voters should have a say.
Speaking of putting you on the spot, and you may not want to answer this one, I know that you're all in on this project, and you have been for a very long time, and you may not want to address this, but I'm going to ask anyway. What happens if any of Propositions 301, 302, or 303 do not pass, and this proposal hits a dead end? Is it fair to assume that you have a plan B, even a plan C within the Valley?
Listen, we have a singular focus, and that's to win. And you heard this from the Zoom COVID interview that I had. This was what Alex and I talked about as issue number 1, 2, 3, 4. We were going to fix the arena issue for this organization. That is our sole focus. That is what we are not only focused and thinking about every single day, but fully committed to. So that's my answer is we are focused on this. We will act as if we have to win every single vote because that's what we want to do. But we believe very strongly and very confidently that as people understand what we are putting forth, that they will see just how compelling this proposal, this commitment that we have made is.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we've covered the campaign and the upcoming vote. We want to get into...
What about my tie? International Women's Day.
We're getting there.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. We love to see it. We love to see it.
He makes us all look bad. Like that. He is
I know.
sharp.
Definitely shamed us all.
I know. I appreciated it.
Honestly,
he was the first one to acknowledge it. But we want to obviously get into the state of the franchise itself currently, besides just the future of the arena. But before we do, we referred to Craig's article this morning on GoPHNX.com, which is a look at the Coyotes Tempe Wins campaign efforts. Craig addresses a lot of the misinformation in that article, so I definitely recommend you go check that out and become a diehard, so you can read the diehard only pieces like what Craig is wondering right now, and I thought that one was really interesting as well. So just lots of great perks to becoming a diehard at gophnx.com. 20% off on merchandise, including some amazing new Suns shirts we have in the locker. Kevin Durant making his home debut, so just a lot of exciting stuff going on in Arizona sports, and you want to rock the best merch in the Valley. That's phnxlocker.com. But you also get 20% off events when you become a diehard, including our next PHNX Tea Party at Dobson Ranch, which is Friday, March 24th. It's a night of golf, food, drinks, contests, prizes, and more. The PHNX crew, with fellow Suns fans and diehards, as we watch Kevin Durant, Booker, and the Suns battle in the final stretch of the season as they take on the Sacramento Kings. So check the link in the show notes to reserve your spot today. And diehards, check Discord for your exclusive discount link. The first tea party was a blast. Really looking forward to this one. Hope to see everybody there.
Yeah, I have you're close with James Jones at the Suns,
Yes.
and you're watching what they're doing with KD coming in and the excitement build around the Suns right now. Do you foresee and look forward to a day when this is the kind of excitement, instead of looking at a new facility and a new building or a high draft pick, that you're going, hey, this team's really, really good? Do you ever talk to him about what the future looks like here?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate. So James has become a good friend. Our sons, my son Javi, his son JD, are very close. Actually, JD, I think you guys have seen him, is a diehard Coyotes fan, and he's there quite a bit. James, I asked to address our executive team within the first meeting that I had of my executive team in a retreat, and you know what he talked about? About where he had started, where they had won, I think he said 13 games. 15 games.
Yeah.
So he talked about the journey, right? He didn't talk about, hey, I'm about to be the NBA Executive of the Year. We're going to go to the NBA Finals or any of that. He talked about the journey. He talked about the process, the importance in people, in purpose, in strategy, and culture, the way you go about doing your business. And so that's what I remember. When I talked to him about what we're going through, it's because he went through that. And yeah, I applaud what they've done. I think they've created such excitement, not just for basketball fans, but for the Valley. I think that it's been incredibly wonderful to be here at a time where you see such excellence on the court, but really permeating throughout. I think it's incredibly important to have such not just great athletes and basketball players, but human beings, and folks like CP3 and Devin Booker and now obviously KD, but Monty Williams as a leader. It's incredibly impressive what they've done. But what I love is having a conversation with my guy about how his thought process was when they were building it, because it's very akin to what we're doing. And so I do aspire to the day when we can be sitting in Tempe, at our Tempe Entertainment District in the state-of-the-art arena, bringing a Stanley Cup to the Valley, which has been our focus from day one. I'm sure we'll get into it. I got asked at Mullet Arena, are we doing something that hurts the integrity of the game? And I said, guys, this is the process. We are fully committed. And guess what? What are we, 15-11 at home?
Yep, 15-11.
We just played a team last night that's 13 and I think 17 at home.
By the way, they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. We beat the Boston Bruins are in a historic season.
I know.
And we beat them at home, right? We beat the Colorado Avalanche, the reigning, Stanley Cup champions. So if you want to just jump right into it, I feel very strongly in what we're doing on the ice. We are building a culture of competition, a culture of winning, and we are doing so by building a sustainable winner through the draft. We have been unapologetic about our approach because we want to not just win one time. We want to create a winner for decades, and we want to create a culture of winning. And you know what? It entails difficult decisions. The hardest part of this job, which I was never in sports, is when you have to say goodbye to people who have been part of building that culture and building that commitment. That is the nature of this game. It is difficult, but we have never strayed from believing that we can develop, we can get the assets in terms of draft, pick right, develop them, and create the winner. And we've invested in scouting. We've invested in player development. We have, I believe, 4 people on our scouting department that have picked 1 overall. I don't believe any other staff in the NHL has that.
Javier, I ask you one more follow-up to this, because I've been close to this organization for a very long time, and I've seen this happen before in 2004 and 2015, where they were in a rebuild and they kind of got close, and ownership and management got excited and go, well, we're getting close. We're changing the plan. And they get assets for draft picks, and we're starting all over. The reason we're starting over with the rebuild now is because this exactly happened in 2015 when we went to get Taylor Hall and all of those things.
Phil Kessel.
Kessel. So my question is, does this ownership group, management group, is there a commitment to continue on this? I know it's hard. I know it's painful, but can we have the confidence that they're going to continue the plan even though it is hard?
It is incredibly hard. but we are committed to winning. And winning on a sustainable,
Not just once. Right.
This is a sustainable winner. We are trying to put this organization both on and off the ice on a track for success, not just 1 year, not just 2, but sustained success. We understand that the key component on the business side is the arena solution. We understand that on the ice, create a culture of winning. Bring in incredibly talented young folks, develop them, and move forward with them. And by the way, you're seeing that. The reality is we do have the rookie of the year, Matthias Michelli. I don't care what anybody says. If he doesn't get hurt, he wins it.
Yeah, and even he's in the conversation without a doubt.
Without that, he's still winning. Yes. So that should tell you, right? And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 4th round pick? Right?
Yeah, you're looking at it, and you've got so many of those guys too. Logan Cooley and Michelli and Gunther and JJ Mosier and Valimaki, and the list goes on and on.
Absolutely. So to those that have, in particular in the last week or so, really questioned our commitment, I turn it around and I talk about we are here to not only continue to build the foundation, but to develop players. Right?
Yeah.
They are developing. They are succeeding. We are creating this culture and they see it and I think they're embracing it.
Having been around this franchise as long as PD, this is the most complete scouting staff I've ever seen with this franchise. There's just no arguing that. And now the same resources are going into development. Yep. I talked to Lee Stempniak a lot because I'm doing a lot of prospect reports and this development staff is like nothing I've ever seen with the Coyotes. So those are encouraging signs.
They went to college with my brother.
Did he really?
Yeah, they know each other real well.
So when we just had Bill on, and there was some concern about the LTIR that the team has taken on and the unwillingness to take back money in certain situations. It raised concerns. Okay, are they stripping this even further down? Is there something else going on? So let me ask you that first. Has anything changed financially?
No, absolutely not. We had a plan in place. We understood that this was going to be a challenge to be a mullet. Listen, I've made this statement publicly, so I'll say it again. We will actually make more in ticket revenue at Mullet than we did in our previous location. So that's not the issue, but we are still definitely operating in a deficit. And we knew that because of the other components that go into revenue, corporate partnerships, enough assets, so understandably, but we had that. No, our plan on the ice was we fundamentally believed that we could build a team that was sustainable through the draft. And we could get enough assets that even if we don't pick, 47 draft picks over the next 4 years,
which would be an NHL record.
Which would be an NHL record. We would have the assets to move up. Look at what we did with Connor Geekie last year. Yeah. You moved up, I think we moved up from 23 to 11? I mean, that is the opportunities that we are creating and building. So nothing has changed. I think Bill was I think I heard him say, I don't know whether it's on your show or not, why would we take on debt when we believe that we have created the scouting department, the player development department to actually get that value through the draft, right? Through those assets. Why would we take on your issues and your problems, team across the table, when the reality is what we want is we want a chance to build them, to bring them into this culture, to develop them how we want, and to do so in a way that's creating a sustainable winner.
Minor question, quick answer.
Sure.
You had told me that you want to put some finishing touches on the annex.
Yes.
Still planning on that?
Yes. It's all aesthetics at this point. A perfect example, you go in and you have to iterate, right? Polished concrete maybe is not what you want. You want more carpeting. All of our, this valley has been quite busy over the last several months with sporting events. Getting a graphic designer and an actual printing company to put the etching on windows that Bill loves. Bill is a very brand guy, and so those things like that. Those are the issues that we've been dealing with. So it's not fundamental issues of the systems or the way that things are working. It's all the aesthetics. So I want you to show up. I want everybody to show up when it looks like it's finished. And that's been the issue. It's all been the aesthetic components. It hasn't been a fundamental, this thing isn't ready. And by the way, I will tell you, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, the opposing teams have loved the annex. First of all, starting with the fact that it's the largest visiting locker room in the NHL because it's the exact same size as the locker room in the home.
And I can vouch for that too.
Yeah.
So can you. There are a lot of visiting spaces.
And they can
where you're
warm up
like, wow.
outside and in the grass,
I
overlooking the
know.
SU's track. I mean, it's
It's a
nice
great
by the way,
setup.
you're not doing that in Ottawa. Just letting you know you're not stretching outside. Not to
Yes,
say
thank
anything
you.
about Ottawa.
All right, but let's let Leah and Petey get to fashion. And I think we need to roll this out, by the way, by you showing off your shoes once again.
Yeah.
Yeah, your shoe
Speaking
game,
of
we
aesthetics-
need to see
Javier.
these shoes.
You want to
So-
see them?
Yeah, we do.
All
we do.
all right. So they're the. I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
perfect.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
And the socks. You
But
got
we
the
have
socks.
my
game
socks,
going,
yeah.
too. So we got
There's
to
so
ask
much
you.
pressure with him. on.
And we talked about this right off the top, obviously. I don't think we've ever seen you not wearing a suit, but you are always in sneakers. And we respect that, A, because comfort, unlike Troy Stetcher, who says fashion over function.
Yes.
I'm more of a function over fashion kind of person myself. So how did you get into the footwear? What's the story behind your amazing shoe collection?
I appreciate that. So a couple of things. So first of all, I've been in a career and, starting on Wall Street where it's blue, gray suit, white, blue shirt, red or blue or something tie. I mean, that's just been my career. I tried to get away from it, and then my wife says, "Oh no, you this is the uniform. This is what you got to do." And I appreciate that, to be quite honest, because I think it does show a sense of, I'm here for business. We're here to be taken seriously. We're here to do things right. Doesn't mean that I try to not. I think I'm very approachable, but we're here to be serious. The shoe. My wife, Jerica, does not like this entire shoe thing,
Really?
okay? And this is actually a recent issue. So what happened was, I wore dress shoes, and I started having significant pain in my outer toes of both of my feet. So I went to the Mayo folks, and they said, well, good news, bad news, right? The good news is nothing's really wrong. The bad news is you can't wear those types of shoes anymore. You're walking around, you're standing. But the good news, going back, is you're in sports. You could wear
You can do what you want.
So I come home, and my son, Javi, is a massive sneakerhead. I mean, massive. It was like Christmas every day. So he said, great. One for you, one for me. One for you, two for me. And he has been my guy. He
Perfect.
he gets mad because sometimes I'm like, you spend how much on my shoes? And no, he's got incredible taste. This is his thing, right? And what I do like is, it does go well. I mean, my wife Jerica again hates it, but we try to kind of come up with some new things. So what I'm wearing right now, they're the Air Force One / undefeated collaboration.
Love it.
And
Wow.
yeah,
What,
so
what are they made of?
they're suede and nubuck.
Nice.
Wow.
There you go.
I love it.
So how
As I'm
big?
hiding my feet now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you should.
Mine are really comfortable.
Honestly, you should.
Yeah, I should have taken a
How big
Mr.
is the
Clean
collection?
Magic Eraser.
My
tomorrow.
son is easily in the 30-40 range, and then me, I think I'm still under a dozen.
Okay.
So,
What
but
are
I
your
got
favorites?
a couple coming. I like these. These are really comfortable. So really, the Nike Dunk Lows of any of the colorways that I wear, or the Air Force Ones, are really. So I'm about to. It's too bad I would have if they had come in time. So I have some new Nike Pandas, which are the black and whites.
Yeah.
But with patent leather.
Oh my God.
We will
That's
be on it.
awesome.
We'll keep our eye
Yeah,
out.
we
so
will.
We'll
Those,
see
are,
them on
those, are, those are
social.
forthcoming. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, last question for me, and it's still on the line of fashion. Fashion's become a focus for the Coyotes. We obviously saw the jersey that Ruigi designed. I was at the First Friday event with a new line, and we saw the collab with JT Holmes on the Black Excellence
that
warm-up
was real
jersey.
great.
So it's been a big focus, obviously,
Yeah.
for the team and an investment. Can you just talk a little bit about that investment and that partnership? Maybe the thought process behind it, how you think it benefits the franchise.
Sure. Well, really, it's the brainchild of Alex Morello Jr., our chief brand officer, who from very early on said merchandise, fashion, culture, food, art was going to be a part of the brand. And, you guys have heard me say this 100 times, right? We're going to focus on and super serve our fan base, but we really want to welcome our fans in waiting. You went to that First Friday. So we were in downtown Phoenix for the, the unveiling of the streetwear collection that Ruigi did. So hats, T-shirts, hoodies, shorts. And we had over 1,000 people. And I can tell you, because I went around, maybe 90% of them had never been to a Coyotes game.
Yeah, you can kind of
And-
tell who was the
Yeah,
hockey fan and who wasn't in that
So,
room.
and for us, that's what we want to be about. When you think of the 3 key pillars of our organization, impact, which is leveraging the power of sports to make a difference, inclusion, which is diverse voices at the seat of decision making, but also including every part of the community, and then being innovative. So as I say, we're using merchandise We're using fashion to welcome in these growth cohorts that we want. Young women. How many? I mean, there was a lot of women in that group looking at fashion. Young women, the diverse audiences, those that want to see, creators and creatives be part of a sports brand. For us, it is core to what we're doing. And I got to tell you, that Desert Collection jersey, incredible. It has been so well received across the league. And, we will continue to do that. And I think that's actually where the NHL needs to go. It needs to embrace it in order to have the cultural relevancy that I think makes it more welcoming to those that aren't hockey fans or aren't sports fans.
Yeah, and I know Craig and I were an older generation. So when it first, I'm going to be, you were old, Craig. I'm going to be sincere when I say this. When it first started to happen in the streetwear, and I go, huh? Like I didn't understand. But then my 24-year-old son said, that stuff slaps, it's fire. And I'm like, don't know what that means. I think it's good. I think it's good. But that again, it's getting people that don't watch the game, don't understand the sport, don't get it. That's cool. Now I'm wearing it and representing it. Maybe I'll watch a game on TV, and maybe I'll get a hat, and maybe so. Like it's not to get the hardcore hockey fan. It's let's bring in more people in the Valley, make this a Valley thing represented. I'm going to talk about fashion too, because you mentioned it already. The draft last year in Montreal, the Arizona Coyotes, stunned the hockey and fashion world.
By the way, this was not the same city.
Yeah, similar color, but. Now headed to Nashville. I don't want you to unveil it here. Well, I would like it if you did.
Bill kind of revealed it already.
I revealed the color scheme.
Are you planning? Is there any country flair? Is there a plan for Nashville?
There is a plan. Bill has it. He's the one who's leading the charge here.
He told us the color.
And listen, it was great.
Yeah,
I thought it was fantastic. I will be shocked if we are the only team again.
I think you're
That's all I'm going to say.
Trendsetters.
I'll give you the best example, right? So we used to have, beginning of last year, sort of that fashion show walk-up, right? That you see certainly in the NBA. We started it. Alex Morello Jr. went to the players. They started it. Oh, my God. We got all the grief.
Yep.
I went to 5 road games. At the end of the year, their opening video was all their players doing the fashion walk-up. All of them, right? This is what helps this sport grow.
Yes.
This is what helps it become more than just hockey. It welcomes a diverse audience, a new audience. And it says, because we know, especially the 4 of us here, when you welcome them in, the game will sell itself.
Yeah,
100%.
It is incredible. They're great young men. They're incredibly talented and skilled, some of the best athletes in the world. That is one of the best experiences. What we need is the ancillary components to really be relevant in culture. And I think it's really, really important for not just us, but for others to embrace it. And we're going to continue it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great interview, very
Fantastic.
thorough, lots
Thank
of
you.
information, and we might just take you up on welcoming you back for
Not
some
gonna take
Q&A.
absolutely 100%. We're going to.
Yeah, and thanks,
Absolutely.
and thanks
Happy to do
again
it.
to the chat for chiming in with your questions and your support. We really do appreciate that. Give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, because we're going to continue to talk about the arena vote as we get closer to May 16th, and of course talk about the rest of the Coyote season as we're here in the last 18 games. But Javier, we can't thank you enough for coming in studio. Hope to have you back and maybe another pair of kicks.
There you go.
Yeah, we love it. But we'll be back live tomorrow for our post-game show, so tune in then. Follow PHNX Sports across all social platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at @SPetersHockey, at Leah Merrill, at Craig S. Morgan. Follow the show at PHNX_Coyotes. Everybody, thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.